Hollywood may look glamorous from the outside, but behind the curtain, it's messy. Contracts collapse, egos clash, and sometimes even A-list stars find themselves holding a pink slip instead of a script. Being fired from a blockbuster might sound like career suicide, but for many of these actors, it actually became part of their legend. These are some of the most shocking and downright unbelievable cases of famous actors who got the boot after landing big roles. Stuart Townsend, The Lord of the Rings. Imagine training for months to wield Aragorn's sword only to be replaced days before filming. That's exactly what happened to Stuart Townsend. The director wanted me, and then apparently thought better of it, Townsend said bitterly. In swooped Viggo Mortensen, who not only saved the day, but became the definitive Aragorn for millions of fans. Townsend was left out in the cold, nursing what must have been the mother of all almost stories. Sometimes one man's heartbreak becomes another man's trilogy. Viggo Mortensen, Platoon. Ironically, Mortensen knew this thing of being dropped too. Before he was Middle-earth's king, he'd been cast in Oliver Stone's Platoon. He spent a year devouring every Vietnam book he could find, only to discover in a newspaper that Willem Dafoe had taken his role. I found out Stone had more money and wanted a bigger star, Mortensen later recalled. Still, he brushed it off with grace. If I had that sort of initial success, maybe I'd got tired of the whole thing and quit. Talk about taking rejection like a king. Megan Fox, Transformers: Dark of the Moon. Megan Fox was Hollywood's ultimate it girl in the late 2000s. 2 Transformers films had made her a superstar. Then she went and compared her boss, Michael Bay, to Hitler. She's like Napoleon. He wants to be like Hitler on his sets, she told Wonderland magazine. Steven Spielberg, who was the executive producer, reportedly heard the remark and simply said, "Fire her right now." And just like that, Fox was out. She later admitted it was absolutely the low point of her career. Looking back, she confessed, "All I had to do was apologize, and I refused. I was so self-righteous at 23. Rosie Huntington-Whiteley stepped in, and Fox learned a brutal Hollywood rule: don't bite the hand that directs you. Eric Stoltz, Back to the Future. Eric Stoltz actually was Marty McFly for about 5 weeks. Cast because Michael J. Fox was tied up with family ties, Stoltz approached the role seriously. Too seriously. His method acting clashed with the lighthearted tone, and his comic timing just wasn't landing. Director Robert Zemeckis admitted, "I simply miscast him, and I learned a very serious lesson. It was the worst experience of my career." Enter Michael J. Fox, juggling sitcom days and movie nights, who brought the charm, humor, and history-making magic the role needed. As for Stoltz, he called it freeing in hindsight. But losing Back to the Future has to sting like a DeLorean at 88 miles per hour. Natalie Portman, Romeo and Juliet. Before Claire Danes swooped in with that angelic balcony scene, Juliet almost belonged to a very young Natalie Portman. She was 13, Leonardo DiCaprio was 21.
Baz Luhrmann realized quickly that the on-screen romance looked more Dateline than Shakespearean tragedy.
It was a complicated situation, Portman reflected. It just wasn't appropriate in the eyes of the film company or the director.
Luhrmann later admitted bluntly,
"When you saw Leo in the flesh, you just realized she was too young." Instead, she was swapped out, and Danes became immortalized in one of the 90s most iconic films. For Portman, the timing was wrong, but clearly her career turned out just fine.
Ryan Gosling, The Lovely Bones. Picture this: Ryan Gosling, one of the most bankable stars of his generation, turns up to set 60 pounds heavier than the role required. Why? Because he'd been downing melted Häagen-Dazs like protein shakes. "I really believed he should be 210 pounds, Gosling later admitted. Then it was fat and unemployed. Peter Jackson didn't exactly share his vision of a grief-stricken dad looking like he just ate Thanksgiving dinner every night for a year. Mark Wahlberg was swiftly brought in to replace him. The lesson? Always sync up with the director before committing to ice cream bulk season. Harvey Keitel, Apocalypse Now. Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now was chaos from day one. Harvey Keitel had been cast as Captain Willard, but Coppola soon grew uneasy, admitting, "I thought, what's it gonna be like for 6 months in the jungle for a city guy who's afraid of it?" Keitel was swiftly replaced by Martin Sheen. Yet Keitel didn't take that narrative lying down, later snapping, "Harvey Keitel spent 3 years in the United States Marine Corps in the jungle." Whether it was fear, fit, or friction, Sheen ultimately endured the madness. Heart attack and all, cementing the film as a war epic. Jean-Claude Van Damme, Predator. You'd think Jean-Claude Van Damme playing an alien superkiller would be perfect. Spoiler, It wasn't. For starters, he hated the suit. He fainted in it, damaged the headpiece, and even insisted the Predator should be a kickboxer. His co-star Bill Duke recalled a producer snapping, "If you pass out again, I'm gonna fire you." Eventually, they replaced him with 7'2" Kevin Peter Hall. So instead of throwing high kicks, the Predator loomed over Schwarzenegger like a nightmare from outer space. Honestly, the film's probably better for it. James Remar, Aliens. James Remar was set to play Corporal Hicks in James Cameron's Aliens, but only weeks in, he disappeared from the shoot. At first, the official excuse was, "Urgent matters at home." Years later, Remar came clean. "I had a terrible drug problem. I was fired after a couple weeks of filming because I got busted for possession." Michael Biehn stepped into Hicks's combat boots, and the rest is sci-fi history. Remar turned his life around, but it's a sobering reminder, sometimes demons off-screen are the scariest ones. Julianne Moore, Can You Ever Forgive Me? Here's a rare case. Julianne Moore, one of the most respected actors alive, got filed days before filming. Cast as literary forger Lee Israel, she was preparing when co-writer and director Nicole Holofcener axed him. "I think she didn't like what I was doing," Moore admitted. Richard E. Grant later revealed Moore had wanted to wear a fat suit and a fake nose, an approach that clashed with the director's vision. The project collapsed, only to be resurrected with Melissa McCarthy in the lead, earning Oscar nominations across the board. Moore, however, confessed she still hasn't watched the finished film. It's still kind of painful. Kel O'Neill, There Will Be Blood. Acting opposite Daniel Day-Lewis isn't for the faint-hearted. Kel O'Neill was cast in There Will Be Blood, then abruptly gone. Rumors swirled he'd been intimidated by Day-Lewis's intensity. O'Neill later told Vulture the truth was simpler. For some reason, even though every other actor I know had a great relationship with Paul Anderson, that just didn't happen with me. Paul Dano, already cast as O'Neill's brother, stepped in and suddenly had twin roles. Double the screen time, double the breakout success. Bad news for Kel, but great news for cinephiles. Dennis Hopper, The Truman Show. Dennis Hopper seemed like a perfect villain for The Truman Show. The producers thought differently fast. After just one day, Hopper was shown the door. "They fired me," he later said bluntly, claiming producer Scott Rudin had secretly planned it all along. Ed Harris replaced him, turning Kristoff into a chilling Oscar-nominated performance. Hopper, meanwhile, was left watching someone else reap the critical glory. If there's one takeaway from all these Hollywood shakeups, it's this: failure isn't fatal in the acting business. It's just the prequel to your next big role. If you like this behind-the-scenes movie drama, like, share, and subscribe to First Curiosity. We've got plenty more trivia waiting.